What's up guys, it's GPM Radlergy here, back once again with a Yu-Gi-Oh video. It's been a while, so I thought I might as well get something out. As the video title may have tipped off, this is a deck for the 2010 Edison format. I've been a pretty avid player of Edison for a bit over 2 years now, and my local scene has grown to be quite big in that time. The scene's really picking up, and I've learned a lot about the game during that time. When I first got into Edison, I tried all sorts of decks and I bought as many cores as I could get my hands on. Despite that, however, there's one deck I just find myself going back to over and over, and that deck is of course Machina. When I first started playing Yu-Gi-Oh really seriously again in the early 2010s, Machina was one of the first decks I was drawn to, and it's not hard to see why. The game plan is straightforward but effective. Machina Fortress is one of the best boss monsters in the entire format. So this is a 2500 attack beat stick with 3 effects. Each individual effect is good enough for its own card, but they pull it all onto this. For that reason alone, this card has entire decks built around it. Anyone who has played Edison for a measurable amount of time already knows this, so I won't insult your intelligence any further. Instead, I'll just talk about all the different variants I've played. I've experimented with this deck a lot. First I tried Gadget Machina, which didn't really work for me. In fact, I prefer gadgets without the Machina package in it. Machina as an archetype is too small to really go pure, so you always need to have a secondary engine in the decks. I've seen success with hybrid decks such as Machina Lightsworn and Machina Heroes, but there's one variant that I just always go back to, and quite honestly, it's my favourite deck in the entire format. So here it is, Machina Quickdraw. Let's go over the package, shall we, before we show some replays. So to begin the deck, we have the standard Quickdraw package. Sangan to search all your combo pieces. First you have Quickdraw Synchron, your main tuner and the card you're combining with Dandelion to make your Synchro monsters. Then you have your secondary tuner, which is the Bree Dragon, which you're also ideally combining with Dandelion to make your Dragon Synchro monsters. Dandelion itself is self-explanatory. When it goes to the graveyard, you get 2 tokens for free. It's a pretty versatile card and deservedly semi-limited in the format. Supporting Dandelion, we have the standard plant package of Tomb Lone Fire Blossom and Titanial, Princess of Camillas. Titanial can be a brick card, but the payoff for getting it out with Lone Fire can be so strong, especially if you have Dandelion tokens, that you kinda have to include it in the deck begrudgingly. After that, we have the machine package that this deck is built around. Card Trooper for its ability to mill cards from the top of the deck, and also just gain you card advantage in general. It's kind of a no-brainer in this deck, especially as its low attack allows it to be special summoned from the graveyard by the Bree Dragon for synchro plays. An optional inclusion in this deck, but one I've quite liked, is the inclusion of Machina Peacekeeper, which is the smallest monster in the Machina archetype. You basically just use it as a searcher for this card, Machina Gear Frame. This is your Stratos of the deck. When it's normal summon, you can add any Machina monster from your deck to your hand, so the aforementioned Peacekeeper, Fortress, or even Machina Force. Machina Fortress, as I mentioned, is your main boss monster. This is one of your biggest threats in the deck. But if you combine it with your Quickdraw package, you can just use it as a decoy to sneak in your secondary engine. It's just a super versatile and powerful card. The final Machina card, of course, is Machina Force. This card doesn't actually do anything. You have no way of summoning it in this deck. The whole point of this card is to just be a monster reborn for Machina Fortress, as discarding Force gets you an entire fortress out of your graveyard or hand. Finally, we have the generic utility monsters that you'll often find in both of these decks, whether it be Machina or Quickdraw. Super Nimble Mega Hamster is the flip of choice for searching out your Raikos, and because of its high defense, it's easy enough to have it live and then tribute it for Caius the Shadow Monarch and banish one of your opponent's monsters. And with it also fetching Raiko, it's really good for getting card advantage. You get the set of Raiko from your deck, then you can flip that Raiko, destroy one of your opponent's cards to clear the way for your Fortress or even your Caius plays. Caius is Caius, it's the most played monster in Edison as far as I'm aware. Gauze doesn't need any explanation, it's one of the most punishing cards in the format. It can completely flip games on its head. It's one of the most feared things you can attack into at tournaments. Just a really good card overall. And then the final monster is Tragodia, a card that should in theory have good synergy with the deck's engine, but in truth, like Gauze, you're actually just using it for itself. Yes, it can change its level for synchro plays, and you can also make use of your variety of monster levels to steal opponents' monsters with its second effect, but in truth you're actually just dropping this as a hand trap to wall you on attacks and maybe tribute for Caius. Next is a spell lineup, and it comes in very small at only 6 cards. 2 Pot of Avarice. This deck mills a lot, it sends a lot. You're going to be comboing off with a lot of monsters, and then the Avarice just lets you recycle all the important ones, get 2 draws, keep your engine going. Foolish Bale also goes good with Avarice, just giving you that 5th monster in your graveyard, but it also lets you send Dandelion directly from your deck for tokens, and it lets you send Machina Fortress directly from deck to graveyard so you can revive it with a Machina Force. Brain Control, Heavy Storm, Mystical Space Typhoon are pretty much mandatory. Brain Control lets you steal for game, lets you steal for tribute with Caius, just insanely strong card. It's probably one of the most ban-worthy cards in the entire format. Then for the trap lineup, we've just got a bunch of good cards. So, 2 Bottomless, you're only allowed to play them both. Compulsory Evacuation Device, this is a late inclusion in the deck. I was playing Call of the Haunted because it lets you fetch Fortress from your grave, but I've got plenty of ways to play that, and honestly, I'm not missing Call of the Haunted, it's not that strong of a card. But Compulsory Evacuation Device just does so much, it is super versatile, it's like a trap version of Book of Moon in terms of its versatility. Deep Prison is your one-to-one removal, everyone knows what this does. Same with Mirror Force, it's the reverse switch that almost everyone plays in this format. Solemn Judgment at 1 because you need the protection in this deck, and it's just nice to have that trap ready to say no, especially when this deck does have control properties, and when you're in control of the game, you don't want that control to be taken away from you. Solemn Judgment protects that. Surgical Tribute is again one of the most busted traps in the format, and it goes particularly well with this deck because you can use it on Sangan, Card Trooper, Machina Peacekeeper, and Dandelion to gain advantage while blowing away your opponent's monsters. And then finally we got the 41st card, which is Trap Does Shoot, which again is such a powerful and broken card that you might as well play it. I know some people don't like playing 41 cards in a deck, they try to stick to 40 for consistency, but because of the presence of Titania in this deck, I've learned that it's probably better to play 41 cards. If you play 40, you're going to be drawing Titania that little bit more often, and you don't want that. And because almost every card in this deck is a quote-unquote good card, it's perfectly fine to just have that 41st slot. These cards can buy you that extra turn to get that extra draw that you would have gotten earlier on 40 cards. I think 41 is perfectly fine for this, and honestly having 41 makes side decking a little bit easier because I always find side decking quite tight. With 27 monsters and 2.5 engines in this deck, it's hard to side things out, so having that one extra card is really helpful. The side deck is super flexible when I'm changing it all the time, but currently I'm running with 1 Cyber Dragon, 1 DD Crow, 2 Snowman Eater, 1 Spirit Reaper, 1 Lightning Vortex, 1 Mind Control, a 2nd Dimensional Prison, Dust Tornado, Mind Crush, 2 Pulling the Rug, 2 Threatening Roar, and the Trapstone. Cyber Dragon I used to run at 2 because of the obvious synergy. I can discard it for Fortress or just really helps you go for OTKs going second, but I don't really think it's that strong in this deck, and Machina is becoming kind of a rarer deck to see now. I don't see it often at all in my local, so I think siding the 1 is fine just in case you do run into a machine deck, but otherwise it's not really necessary, and I don't go into it that often even if I'm going second. DD Crow is another weird one. It is very strong when you resolve it, but I haven't actually been siding it that much recently. It can stop a Pot of Avarice and a lot of other graveyard targeting plays, and of course it can banish Treeborn Fog and other graveyard activated monsters like Amaryllis. It's an important card, but I don't know if I really need it. Snowman Eater was great. I'm siding it against like dragons, heroes, any aggro deck that uses monsters with high attack but not high enough to attack over the Snowman Eater. Likewise, Spirit Reaper comes in clutch in matchups where you need a blocker to keep you alive. Lightning Vortex is to wipe out certain troublesome decks. It's useful against frogs to out the dupe block. There are a number of matchups where you'll just want to drop this to reversal someone. Mind Control is a super solid card, but in this deck I've found its uses to be quite limited. This deck doesn't take that huge an advantage of Mind Control. I do question whether or not this is a deck that needs Mind Control. Maybe there is a better spell I can put in this slot. Deep Prison isn't hard to argue for. For some matchups you just need the second Deep Prison. Dust Tornadoes for when you need that extra bit of back row removal. In particular, I like to side it against decks that use Future Fusion. So when the Dragon players and the Hero players drop their Future Fusion, I always want to have that chainable removal to get rid of the Future Fusion. And Dust Tornado fits that role perfectly. Mind Crush is probably one of the more skillful cards in my side deck. I found recently that I've had the most success with it against Dragon Turbo. Likewise, it's really good against Gold Sark decks, so if they're Gold Sarking for Future Fusion, you make them discard the Future Fusion, and yada yada yada. Pulling the Rug is, quite frankly, one of the best sideboarding cards in the format. You absolutely need it against Frogs. It's very rare you will see a Edison sideboard that does not use Pulling the Rug. Overall, it's just a super useful trap card that can completely roar your opponent if they try and play the game. Threatening Roar is something I've picked up recently, and honestly this card is fantastic. It forces your opponent to race their plays. It's just an insanely good card, incredibly chainable. If your opponent destroys it, you can just, chain it, and then there's nothing they can do about it. They've just lost a back row removal to this card that you've got full effect out of. A similar thing can be said about Trap Stun. I've tried Royal Decree, but I've got too many traps in this deck for it to work. Traps are just too important. Trap Stun, on the other hand, is only one turn, and flipping it at the right time can straight up win your games. You'll see such an example later in this video when I go over the match replays. Finally, we have the extra deck. Catasta you can't summon naturally, it's just in case you mind or brain control a Dragodia, an opponent's tuner, and can somehow make Catasta. Turbo Warrior you want to play against decks that are using cards like Snowman Eater, Raikou, and even Monarchs to target. Drill Warrior is maybe the most important card in the extra deck if you draw into your Quickdraw Synchron. It generates so much card advantage, it's unreal. You can just discard Dandelion with it every turn to generate 2 tokens, and then the next turn it comes back, you get Dandelion again, and you just keep discarding for tokens. The effect to attack directly allows you to play around Gauze and get around game states where you're ruled out of attacking through monsters. It's a super safe card and gives the deck its control element. Nitro Warrior and Junk Archer are of course your level 7 options. They're both very aggressive cards. Junk Archer you'll pretty much be using for that one turn, but it is worth bringing up that if you banish a token with its effect, that token's not coming back, which may have some niche use. Nitro Warrior is just a big beat stick. If you play a spell card on the turn you summon it, you're going to get 1000 attack boost. You might even be able to OTK with this card. Road Warrior is another one you play just because you can. It's the only level 8 you have for your quick draw plays, and sometimes you will go into the level 8. 3000 is a pretty high attack baseline. This monster is also the reason why we played the Machina Peacekeeper. With Peacekeeper being a level 2 or lower machine, it gives you something that you can summon straight from deck with Road Warrior, which is nice because it just gives you a plan B on standby should your opponent out your board. Then we have the Dragon Synchros, which you'll be summoning with the Bee Dragon. Iron Chain Dragon isn't that good of a card. You play it because you have to. It's the only level 6 dragon. 2500 attack is nice, but forcing your opponent to mill 3 is a very, very dangerous thing in this format, and it can backfire on you spectacularly depending on what deck your opponent's playing. Ancient Fairy Dragon's a super defensive card. It can be hard for certain decks to get over the 3000 baseline. Black Rose Dragon, of course, everyone knows what this does. It blows up the opponent's field. It has synergy with your plank cards to flip your opponent's monsters into attack position and put them on 0 attack. You'll want to be using this quite often with Debris, and then you'll want to combo it with Pot of Avarice to get it back, and then keep playing Debris so you can just keep looping the Black Rose Dragon until you run out of Avarice. Super good card. Then for our 2 level 8 dragons, we have both Red Dragon Archfiend and Stardust Dragon. Stardust is the level 8 you will normally go to, but in some niche applications you will want to go into Red Dragon Archfiend. I have used RDA to get OTKs before, going for exactly 8000 damage by combining Machina Fortress, Turbo Warrior, and Red Dragon Archfiend. The effect of destroy cards you own that have an attack that turn does mean it has negative synergy with the Dandelion tokens, but as far as the Debris Dragon's targets go, Red Dragon Archfiend and Stardust Dragon are the only level 8s it can really summon. So that's the deck. I've been playing variants of this build for a very long time, and I am just absolutely in love with it. So let's go see some replays. I won the dice roll, so I'm going first. In this duel, I opened Titania, which you never want to happen. I also opened Raikou Sangan. I opt to set Raikou because Sangan is what I use to search my combo pieces. So I set the Raikou Mills and Fortress. I draw a quick draw, so I'm like, okay, now's the time to play Sangan. If Sangan gets destroyed, which it does, I can now get the Dandelion. So this gives me plenty of options to play with. On my turn, I have quite a lot of options. I get the Gear Frame, get the Fortress, and then I'm going to play into this back row on purpose, and now my quick draw plays are open. I get the Drill Warrior, and now I'm going to play around the Gauze. which I didn't know was there, but it just turns out it is. So I played around the Gauls perfectly there by attacking directly. I discard the Titanial, my Torrential Tribute gets Heavy Stormed, but I'm in a good place right now. I decide, you know what, let's go for a Debris Dragon play, go for Black Rose. Due to the Chain Link, I will be getting my tokens after Black Rose blows up the field, so I've completely blown their field away, and I'm still able to get out a Fortress. Now I've played into the Gauls, but it's fine because I still have Drill Warrior, but it's not the best. But here we go, I've top deck Brain Control, and that is the game. Game 2, the opponent's going first. I draw a pretty okay hand, actually. I mean, Lila's not great. I can't actually get over the Lila. And unfortunately, my Dandelion gets compulsed, so my Caius will not be getting played, which is a shame because Caius would have really helped. But next turn, I just have to risk it. I Brain Control the Fortress, Tribute for Caius, hit Lila, but my opponent spawns potential tribute. I put down 2D prisons, didn't think they had Heavy Storm, they did, which was pretty frustrating. They're going to set the Mirror, not the Mirror Force, they're going to set the Vico. I know it's a Vico, so I attack into it with Dandelion. They choose not to pop the Dandelion. And then we just start stunning a bit. I did draw the Threatening Wall, which will come up later. They're playing Imperial Iron Wall, even though I've already gone through one of my 2 Caiuses, so they've got the Iron Wall to defend their Caius, but you know. Anyway, they play the Fossil Dino Papacephalo, and like, okay, I can't really take the chance. So I Threatening Wall the Papacephalo, keep my Dandelion, but I don't draw one out to the Papacephalo. I have to just give it my bluff tokens, but Vico does let me get rid of Fossil Dino. And next time I'm in position to completely flip this game, I Heavy Storm to be safe because I don't know what their back row is, and then I go into the Black Rose because I don't want to get greedy. I just use the Heavy Storm. Blow their field away, get 2 tokens. Here I probably should have been more proactive, but I wanted to wait, and it's like, oh, I've got Gauls, and then I realized maybe I shouldn't have attacked into this Trooper, because now they get to play around Gauls for free, and yeah, that's not good. In fact, they should have Chimera Teched here. I don't know why they didn't Chimera Tech. That was a massive misplay from the opponent. I get the Dragodia. My opponent did not know that Chimera Tech can be made with opponent's monsters, and then next turn I just start doing my thing, and I'm in total control of the game, and I win the duel. Okay, let's move on to the next replay. Okay, I lose the dice roll this time, so KL1993 is going first. They are playing the Elemental Hero Neos deck, where they send Necroshades to the graveyard to normal summon Neos. I start by setting Sangan and a back row. I've got my Quick Draw Dandy combo thanks to Sangan. I start using the Vico, I take out the Bottomless, and they've got the Necroshade play. I've now got my Quick Draw Dandy plays. I just start going for it. I tell myself, oh, I'm in complete control of this game. Now I discard the Titania, which I drew again. And we just start playing through the process of the Drill Warrior control. And I get the Pot of Avarice, send back everything but the Dandelion. And now, I say, okay, I can get my Titania out, and they Torrential, but I had the Solemn Judgment there. So I'm just going to go for it now. And yep, they say they bricked, which they did, but as you can see, I had plenty of power there to take the game. Game 2 is a very close one. It probably could have gone a bit differently had I changed some things, but now that I'm looking at the hand, I realise that they did have a certain card, so I was going to probably lose this game no matter what. So I get Gauls early on, and that gives the opponent momentum straight away, and I'm now playing on defensive. They sided a Nobleman of Cross, out of all things, a card that I normally don't prepare for because I don't expect it. So I'm in a pretty tough spot. I need to get my Caius, but instead I decide, okay, I'm about to die, I need to get this Gauls. They decide to just Gemini Spark the Vico, and thankfully I'm able to get the Gauls, and I'm like, okay, now I can turn this game around. I have stormed the prison. For some reason, I should have probably not have done that. I should have held that Heavy Storm. I think if I held this Heavy Storm, I would have won this, because now they've just set Mirror Force, Deep Prison, and Torrential Tribute. So, not great. I really should have just played into the Mirror Force Torrential earlier, and I probably would have just been able to start putting big monsters out, but I'm pretty bad in these clit situations, so I messed up there. I could have done so much more. I now know, looking at this replay in hindsight, there's so much more I could do that could have done better in that match. Yeah, I just set on the start, and I play pretty passive at the start because I don't really have much of a hand. It's more of a go in second hand, so I play the Fortress attack, and I just wait and see what they do. They got the Prisma. I just let that go through. I'm just waiting, and they go, I Caius the Prisma because why not? Attack. I try and go pretty aggressive when I know I can just Caius, but yep, Mirror Force the Neos, and then they drop Chaos Sorcerer, which I just wasn't expecting. But thankfully I have the means to get over Chaos Sorcerer, or I would if they didn't like Geki Break me, so now I'm relying on Snowman Eater. They Heavy Storm my prison. The opponent probably thinks they have a chance now. They play the Prisma, and they choose to attack with the Prisma, and Snowman Eater just gets with the Chaos Sorc. And now I once again have a shot. We've both set Torrential Tribute, and I've just decided to let that Tribute rip. Then here comes the Trooper. They know there's no point tributing the Trooper. If they TT the Trooper, then I'm just going to get a draw. I have 2 Avarice in hand, so I'm in a pretty good position now, so I've got ways to mill, and my draws aren't great. The Trap Dust Shoot is dead, but I'm able to have some semblance of control of this game. They're now on very low life points, and I get Nobleman of Crossout, hit on my Snowman Eater, and I take a big hit on the Neos and the Trooper, but I get lots of draws, and this is where it starts getting a bit grind gamey. I decide to Ryko the Neos and just Foolish Bale the Danny because I need to be defensive, and I need to get my Avarice live, and I need to have tokens out so I contribute them for the high level monsters in my hand. I once again draw Titania, which just hasn't been my day for that. The TT is pretty bad there, that nearly ruined everything, but I had the means to play around it, at least I thought I did. I get Mirror Force, I'm thinking, oh no, there goes the game. They play the Honest, and unfortunately for me, they knock my second Ryko, and it's just like, Jesus Christ, they just won't let me go. And now I'm playing defensive. They hit the Trooper with Raigeki Break, which is fine, and I have Gauze, which is pretty much, I win the game there because of the top deck, because of the Gauze I had in my hand. So that one was pretty close, but yeah, game 2, I definitely made some mistakes there. I just hold the Heavy Storm, and I win that game. This is another one where I lose the Rock, Paper, Scissors. So my opponent is on, yeah, they're on the Saster Dragons. Now this is a very good replay for me. This is a very important replay. This game had a lot of turns. It was very grindy. I go for Gear Frame into the Warrior Lady. My opponent has 4 back row, so this turns into a very long, patient game. I hit the Wyvern with Bottomless. Now I start going for setting up Caius plays. I want my opponent to kind of race through all of their resources, so I Brain Control the Warrior Lady, attack, and then I Caius to hit a random back row, and I managed to get a 1-for-2 on the Caius. They get their Future Fusion, but I've set the MST because I knew the Future Fusion was coming, and my opponent correctly predicted that I'd have an MST. I played the Hugoja, and they get rid of it with a Call the Haunted Warrior Lady, but that's fine, they take damage. I'm now going to go for some Hamster Stalling. I Trap Dust Shoot a Red Med, and now this is where it turns into the full-on grind game now, because neither player is going to want to attack much. I get Dust Shoot and lose my Quick Draw, which is a shame. I Ryko to get rid of the Mash Dragon because I don't want it around. Better to get rid of the dragon than risk getting Red Med, and now it's just turning into a stall now. We're both playing heavy back row. I've got a Solemn set, I've got my MST set, I've got a Bottomless set, and now I'm being forced to set cards. I've got Heavy Storm, I could use it at any time, but I want to save this Heavy Storm, especially if they have Starlight Road. I figure, hey, they're not breaking through, and you need a lot of patience to play against this deck. But I am making sure to just get rid of every dragon they play. I'm still going for the Kai's plays. That Torrential Tribute's quite worrying, but I do have the Avarice to give me backup plays, and I draw into a Torrential. They're still holding the Future Fusion because they know I have the MST. And there we go, there's the Torrential. And I've still got plays here. Very defensive plays, but I'm taking it slowly. I'm just waiting for the right time to strike. They Royal Lady my Dandelion, which is quite unfortunate. I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to, yep, there we go. I hit the Heavy Storm, the Solemn, and then here it comes. Here's the game. And boom. Nope, not quite yet. I'm like, let's just go a little more flashy just in case they have Gauze. And there we go. I play around the Gauze by doing that, and then that's the game. But that was a very challenging game, lasted very long. As can happen with the Saster Dragon, do not be surprised if you time out against this deck in a live tournament setting. So game 2, I'm going second, I attack into the Totem Dragon, and now we're going to go into another very card trade heavy matchup. So yeah, the Saster Dragon is a deck that gives you some trouble, like now they're running the Oppression. It's just like the deck has so many trap cards and they can be very challenging to get around. I get attack into Warrior Lady again, which is fine. I'd rather use Gear Frame than just get rid of stuff like Warrior Lady. And thankfully for me, I have a Caius in play. I decided to just hit the Impression because if they start special summoning monsters, I don't care. I've got Brain Control Caius. So yeah, I Brain Control their Wyvern, Caius, hit the Totem Dragon. And now I feel like I'm more in control of the game than my opponent is. So I'm just going to try going for this slow grind now. And we're getting very close to the end of the game. Soon I've just drawn the Trapstone. I'm actually going to pause here. So let's just look at this situation. My opponent has 5 cards set. I've got a Debris Dragon in hand and a Trapstone set. Now you're probably thinking, oh, I cannot actually play that Debris Dragon because my field is full. Well, that's not necessarily the case. Let's go to main phase. I look at my field and I see that I need to open up a slot. This is where the set Raikou comes to the rescue. I first Trapstone just to see what my opponent would do. My opponent actually has a set Solemn Judgment, and their big mistake here was choosing not to use it. But I think my opponent may have realized if they Solemn, they're probably going to die because they do not have a card that is going to stop the Black Rose play. So they're in a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. So yeah, they have a think on the Trapstone, and then they let Trapstone go. I think a bit, I flip the Raikou, target my own Sangan, so I can fetch a Quickdraw Synchron from my deck. And then if we just play this through now, I summon the Debris Dragon, Raikou token makes Black Rose. I blow the field away, and then I just decide to go for the Wombo combo, so I make Fortress, I believe, yeah, I didn't even get a chance to finish, but the duel was over. So that duel made me very happy because I have struggled with the Saster Dragon a lot, and I feel like in that duel I played it, maybe not perfectly, but as well as I know how to. And that's a very good duel for me to improve on. I actually like playing these super grindy decks. They really do challenge you as a player. Next up we have the Dude 46, and I once again lose the Rock, Paper, Scissors. So I open up with a pretty decent going first hand actually, so it's really unfortunate I go first. My opponent is playing Zombie Hero. And this was quite a challenging one. I decided to just go aggressive with the Titanial and see what they do. I set the Dust Shoot and I set the Compulse. I Dust Shoot the Zombie Master and I let set the Pyramid Tilt because I know I can get rid of it with Caius. I can start going aggro on them now. I do not know they have certain cards. They have the Heavy Storm, but I just put the Caius back. I'm pretty stupid. I did set into the Storm, but if you only play one card, they won't use the Storm. At least by playing 2 cards, I can force them to get rid of the Storm. But yeah, I kind of lose control of this game. I probably could have played it better. But I still try and go for things. I go for the Ancient Fairy Dragon Store, and they have the Caius, and I'm like, I need to preserve my life points, so I activate the Torrential, but they have the return, so I need to play it better on the next one. Next game, I start quite slow, but I have Dragodia in hand, so I'm like, okay, I got plays, let's just go for Caius. I hit the Goblin Zombie. With zombies, there's no point stalling on those sets. I might as well just Caius them, because it's always going to be something good. They try and go for Stratos, but I've got the Pulling the Rug that I sided in, because I know they're going to be playing all those normal summon cards. Dust Tornado hits the prison. I just start going in now. They get their Stratos effect in the end, but I tell myself it probably doesn't matter. I set the prison, set the Compulse. They top deck Heavy Storm, so I can pulse back my Caius. I'm like, okay, that's fine. I've got Dragodia, I can still play Caius. They go for Fort Ruler for damage, but unfortunately for them, I have Dragodia. Then on my turn, I am able to Caius to get rid of the Fort Ruler, and I'm able to go into control of the game. I've got Mirror Force set. They do have Miracle Fusion, which is quite worrying, but thankfully for me, they don't have a way to really use that Miracle Fusion, so I can just take this game and then go on to Game 3. Not quite yet. They have the Return from the Dimension, which I just let fizzle out, so their cards get banished again, and then they top deck as Caius, and that is it for that game. So into Game 3 of this set, I'm opening pretty good, actually. I just need to get my Dandelion into Graveyard, but I'm willing to be patient. They get the Diva play, they go into Magical Android. I just decide to deprison the Android, and then I hit the Pyramid Turtle with Raikou, which is perfect. Unfortunately, I still don't have a way to utilize my Dandelion, and because of the cards they have in their hand, it's a good thing I didn't Debris Dragon for an attack either. But they top deck nothing that's going to really help them here. I mean, they have actually I don't know why they crit here. They have plays. Like, I bottomless trap hold their Zombie Master. In fact, I hot-shotted it too soon. But I'm looking at the hand and I'm thinking, they were not in a losing position. Like, okay, they'd already divaed away their Spined Gilman. They still had Lightning Vortex. They had plays. But I suppose I had Dandelion and I had 2 pots and I had Debris. Yeah, this was really more my game. Now I'll make this the last replay of the video against Siran. I automatically draw Raikou, Dandy, Quickdraw, which is a great start. I've got Brain Control, Compulse. I'm feeling pretty good about this game. They attack into my Raikou. I trade with the Stratos. I don't get the best of mills, but it's fine. I've got my plays. I've got my token stuff. Here I go for something very greedy. I should have just gone for regular plays, but I got no discards for Drill Warrior, so I'm like, let's go for Rogue Warrior, try and get a Peacekeeper, try and get my Machina Engine, and then it just... Yeah, I can't even chain the Compulse to Caius because they've got a Treeborn Frog in Graveyard, so this game's a bust. All I can do here is Brain Control, crash their cards, and they've got Miracle Fusion, so this one's over. This did not go very well at all. I shouldn't have gone... Maybe I shouldn't have gone for Road Warrior, but I thought it's the best play I could possibly make. Like, Hamster gives me a chance to come back into it, but I don't come back into this game, I believe. Despite my best efforts. It's like, yeah, I have the Titanial here, but again, they have the Miracle Fusion. I don't have a way to play around that Miracle Fusion. If I had my Compulsory Evacuation the Fice, I may have had a chance, but unfortunately, I just have no chance. I played the Machinas, but I just realised it's a lost game. There's not really anything I can do. If I only had a little bit more damage, but I don't. I'm pretty much at the limit for what I can do here. Oh, no, actually, no, that's not true. I draw Caius. I completely forgot this happened. I top deck Caius, banished it for game. That was such a surprising top deck that even I had forgotten about it. I believe it was game 2 where things went wrong, because they're setting their Ring Blast and other good cards. I thankfully hit the Ring Blast. Every time I hit a Ring Blast with Raikou, I feel a lot of relief, because Ring Blast is a very problematic card for this deck. I get my Debris plays. I decide to go Defensive with Stardust Dragon. Maybe Red Dragon Archfiend would have been good as well, because Red Dragon Archfiend would have destroyed their defense position monster, which is the Treeborn Frog. In fact, I'm actually glad I didn't go with RDA. If they had the Treeborn Frog, that would have been erased. I'm able to establish Titanial Stardust Dragon on the board with a token, which is super strong. I am basically feeling invincible at this point. I have to explain to them that despite what the card text says on Brionac, it actually does target an Edison. So they made a pretty large error there. They could have just gone for Goyo Guardian, attack Stardust Dragon. But unfortunately for them, I had Bottomless Trap Hole, Torrential, I had, you know, Gauze, Dragodia. Like, there was just nothing they could have done in this game. They were really far behind. I would have probably won this no matter what. So there you have it. That's my favourite Edison format deck of all time up to now. I have so much fun with this deck. It's a blast every time I play it. The games are almost always different, but I'm still able to see many of my key cards in the deck. I'm really happy with how it performs. It pushes me to get better as a player of the format. Yeah, this is everything I could possibly want out of a Yu-Gi-Oh deck. I just need to win a tournament with it now. I've won all locals with Machina Hero and Machina Lightsworn, but I have not yet run a tournament playing this variant. I've gotten runner-up with it, but I just need to get that 1W. So with that all said, thank you for watching, everyone. I will try and get more edited Yu-Gi-Oh content out in the future, but for now, I will fill the gaps with videos like this, which I probably should have been doing in the first place. So until next time, see you around.